We're going to kick off all of our programs with an icebreaker activity to kind of get everybody up and going and ready. So we're going to do that first today. Then we're going to talk about what is budgeting and why do we do it. Then we will talk about needs, wants, and prioritizing spending. We'll review income and expenses. We'll put together a little practice budget together. We'll talk a little bit about savings and goals, and then talk about our Rosebudthorne. And what that is we ask everybody to share with us something that you learned, that's your rose, something that you're looking forward to, that's your bud, and thorn as something that might have been challenging or confusing or you didn't quite get, so that we can try to clear that up. Sound good? Excellent. This is a slide that we also show to all of our classes and all of our courses. This is a motto that our agency kind of lives by, is that supporters should do with and not for. So if you are a participant who is attending with support, be it paid support, maybe it's family or friends or anything in that line, supporters, remember that this class is for the participants, right? So good support can look like rephrasing a question, repeating a question. It could be redirecting for focus. What we really don't want to happen is if we ask a question like, what is budgeting? We want to know what the participants know. If you know what budgeting is and you're a supporter, awesome, great job. That's not what we're asking, right? So we want to make sure that supporters aren't answering questions, they're doing homework for our participants, right? So when we talk about this slide, we also talk about self-advocacy. And so participants, good self-advocacy is asking for help when you need it. So if you don't understand something, go ahead and ask. Good self-advocacy is also saying, I got this, if somebody's trying to give you more support than you need. Okay, so thanks for your help, but I can take it from here. Cool. Excellent, let's move along. Anne's got some icebreakers for us.
Yeah, so we are going to kick off with an icebreaker, which is usually one of our seminar favorites. We get to ask sometimes silly questions to get warmed up, and it helps us to identify any tech issues that we might be having before we really get started. So we are going to ask you questions, and you can type your answers in the chat box. Because we're talking about money management, we're going to ask you money questions. So your first icebreaker question is, do you prefer to use cash or another method of payment like debit, credit, check, Venmo when you're making purchases? Personally, I prefer credit card, but I have a trick with my credit card where I never spend more on it than I have in my bank account, and I pay it down every month so that I get the benefits of using a credit card, but none of the interest do I have to pay. Sarah likes debit. Erin uses her phone. Oh, that's a great one. It's been super helpful with Apple Pay during the pandemic. Yeah, you don't want to be handing your card off to people. That's a great tip.
Also, carrying money that everybody else touches is a bonus to Apple Pay. You don't have to touch cash.
Awesome. All right, I think we're still waiting to hear from a couple other people. All right, Brian prefers credit cards, but always pays off at the end of the month. It's a good move, Brian. It's my move.
One of my goals is to do that more.
Yeah.
Use the credit card
like
more.
The cash back on credit cards that you can just then apply to pay towards your bill. Adam likes debit card on phone. Yeah, I forgot about the phone feature. That really is quite handy. All right, let's do one more icebreaker question and then we will move on.
I'm going to draw a little line in the chat box to separate them.
Thank you. Do you prefer to save or spend money? I'm kind of 50-50. I do spend probably more money than I should, but only after making sure I've put away enough in savings for the month. Sarah likes to spend, Adam likes to save. All right. All right. Okay, so we can still have answers coming in. Again, this is something we do every seminar. Can be a little bit silly, but it gets us in the groove and lets us know whose technology is working. Brian saves until he has enough money and then spends it. That's awesome. We're going to be talking about just that today. So, love it.
Nice work. Here we go. We're going to start off with a question for you. What is a budget? Spoiler, I already asked that question during my do with not for slide.
We haven't got an answer yet. So
all right, so today we're talking about budgeting. And what is a budget? A budget is a plan. It's also a summary of expenses and income that will help you to make sure that you don't overspend and to help you save. So it's kind of a plan on how you will spend your money and a plan on how you won't spend or waste your money. And a really important part of budgeting is tracking all of your expenses as they happen. And it sounds like if everybody's using debit and credit and your debit card on your phone or Apple Pay and things like that, it can make it so much easier to track. Right? It's harder to track when you spend cash. So everybody is already half a step ahead, and that's great. So why do we budget? Like, why don't I just spend every cent that I have as soon as I get it? Because budgeting makes sure that we will have enough money for the things that we need. It helps you decide if you can afford the things that you want. It helps us to prioritize. We use the word prioritize a lot in a lot of our classes. So let's also, when we use a word that it's kind of complicated, we like to define it. So let's define prioritize. And prioritize means putting things in order of importance. So it helps us prioritize what's the most important and make sure that we have money for that first. It also helps us to save money and helps us to create a plan to save up for those long-term budget goals.
just
Cool.
like Brian.
Just like Brian. Awesome. So when we talk about prioritizing, here's kind of like the big piece of prioritizing. We need to talk about needs and wants. And a need is something that you must have for survival. Gotta have it to live. Like food and water and a nice warm place to live. Protect us from the elements, right? A want is something that we'd like to have, but it's not super necessary and you could do without it. Right? So we talked about food, water, shelter. Wants are more things like the newest, coolest video game system, right? Pretty sweet, but I could live without it no matter what I'm going to tell my mom, right? I won't die if I don't get the newest game system. Here's an idea that I think is kind of complicated. Sometimes needs and wants overlap. Like, think about cake. Cake is a food, right? And a food is a need. Do I ever need cake? Not really. I think sometimes it feels like I need cake. I don't, right? I need a basic healthy diet to survive, but that diet does not need to include cake. Another example might be, I could bake a cake. That would be super fun. Oh, another need want is like clothing. I need clothing to keep myself warm and safe and protected from the elements and things like that. But I don't need expensive designer clothing, right? Exactly. So how about this one popping up over there on the right? The newest iPhone. This one's kind of an overlapper too. It's important to have a way to communicate. Anne says that's her weakness. It's important to communicate, but do we need the newest thing, or like is a couple of generations old still gonna work? And, what number iPhone, right? It doesn't have to be the latest iPhone. If the iPhone from 6 years ago still works and does all the things that you need it to, you're still able to communicate, you're able to take your online classes, you're able to use the clocks and timers and calendars and all of the things that you need, then it doesn't have to be the brandy newest, shiniest piece of technology, right? It's hard to think about. Excellent job. Who wants to play a game? We're going to play a game that practices all of the things that we just talked about. So we talked about prioritizing spending. We talked about needs and wants. It's important to practice prioritizing spending because some of the things that we want, while not technically a need, are still pretty important to us, like having that phone to stay connected or maybe transportation to get around, right? So we all have things that make us tick, like spending time with friends and, music and hobbies, and we want to be able to do the stuff that brings us joy. So if it means sacrificing junk food to go to that awesome concert when it's safe to do so, maybe I'll save up my money for that concert. So prioritizing, again, putting things in order of importance. Here, we've got a pile of things. So we're going to prioritize them as a group. And the thing about prioritizing in ideas of what's important to you means what's important to me, the most important to me might not be this most same that's the thing that's the most important to Anne or to Aaron or to Adam, right? So we've got this list over here, and each thing on the list also coordinates to a picture. So we've got paying your phone bill, ordering takeout, paying for your Netflix or other media subscription, Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple TV, whatever. Going camping with your friends, downloading your band's favorite album, paying for bus fare, buying your favorite junk food, or getting a new shirt that you love, even if you already have clothing to keep you warm and safe. So, which one on this list or of these pictures do you think is the most important thing? Which one of these, if we had enough money, which one do we want to pay for first?
Remember, you can use the chat box or you can use the raise hand to answer. Erin says phone bill. Yeah. So Erin's phone bill is important because she uses her phone for work. Amanda also chose paying the phone bill. Adam chose Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix is pretty high on my list too, because things are starting to get a little scary out there again. Let's stay home and stay safe, right? That's the whole idea of these meetings, right? So stay home and stay safe might mean that I spend a little more time watching TV than I usually would. And Allison's got a really good point too. If you use the bus to get to work, that's where you get the money to pay for your phone bill and your Netflix. Right? So that maybe that's your highest priority. Absolutely. I think you guys are doing a great job. You all put your needs up top. And it looks like Alexandria has her hand raised. I'm going to open that up. It looks like Alexandria is using an older version of Zoom, so it won't allow me to allow you to talk. It says that I could promote you, but I'm going to let somebody from New Jersey do that if that is their choice. I think you guys did a really great job at prioritizing what's the most important. Do you want to go the other way? Tell me what is the thing that you would wait to spend? What would you buy last on this list? If you'd spent all of your money except for a little bit, you've already done all of the things you want to, what's the last thing? What's least important for you?
Adam says junk food, but that came right as we were transitioning. So I'm not sure, Adam, if you want that as your top priority or your bottom priority. Can you let us know?
Yes.
Okay. I think the one that I would probably save money and not do, maybe buying my band's new album. I could listen to it for free on YouTube or something like that if I wait patiently, right?
I would say my last priority is going camping with my friends, but that's simply because I do not enjoy camping.
And it's winter.
And it's winter. Yeah, that's fair.
Excellent job, everybody. Anne is going to talk to us about income and expenses.
Yes, I am. So we're going to be putting together a sample budget as a group. And we now know that a budget is what money you have coming in and how you do and don't spend that money. So let's get a little technical with those terms. The money coming in is your income. And that income can come from you working, making investments, getting government assistance, or any other way you might earn money. An expense is how much something costs. So we all have all sorts of expenses that we'll consider for our budget, like rent, groceries, bills, and more. But to have a balanced budget, you need to make sure that you have more money coming in, or your income, than you do going out. So how do you know if you have more money coming in than going out? You track it, which is what we're going to do next. So there are several different ways that you can track your income and expenses. And we'll talk about some of them today. But you're going to want to pick the tool that feels most comfortable for you. We're going to provide you with a couple of different options, and we'll send some follow-up with those links after. So you'll have those in your email. But we're going to show you 3 different options. The first we'll show you is a specific app that you can use. There are many apps, but we like to recommend this spending tracker app to our students. We like it because it's available in both Apple and Google Play stores. It breaks things down really simply into income and expenses. And you can add the categories you need for both income and expenses, and it gives you a running balance of what you haven't yet spent. So you can program in your reoccurring expenses to make things easier. So we like this spending tracker app, but there are also paper options where you just write out your income and expense each month and then track it by hand. This is probably the simplest option, but it does require you to do the math on your own, which is a benefit you don't have to do with an app. And then lastly, if you're familiar with Excel, you can track your spending on an Excel or or Google Sheets doc. We have a template that we like, and that's what we're going to be showing you in our example today. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, we are going to start by collecting information of your income and expenses that have already happened. And then from that, we're going to estimate or make a guess based on the information we have what your income and expenses will be on average each month. And that's going to be your budget. Then as you earn and spend money, you'll track that and compare it to what you budgeted. So this is information that you should have access to whether you are managing your budget yourself or if you have a guardian or representative payee. So in order to gather the information we need, we're going to ask ourselves and answer some questions. So these are the questions about your income. Do you have a job where you receive a paycheck? Do you receive benefits like Social Security, unemployment, or another source? Do you have a trust or a monthly allowance that pays for your living expenses? Or is there another consistent source of money coming in for you? Okay, so now we're going to do a sample. And if you want to play along with us, you can break out your calculators if you have them, or your phones with a calculator app. We're going to do an example budget. And in our example, we make $1,000 after taxes a month from our job. We receive $1,200 in Social Security benefits. We don't have any trusts or allowances or any additional income. So what is our monthly income? And as a hint, you add those two numbers together. Anybody want to take a guess?
Another hint. I actually just showed it and then took it away. So if you already saw the answer, go ahead and type it in the box.
All right. Well, cat's out of the bag. It is $2,200 a month. All right. Now let's take a look at our expenses. So additionally, as we are trying to collect information about our expenses, we need to know some key pieces of information. What expenses are you responsible for that are charged every month? So this could range from rent to a phone bill, to utilities, groceries, gym membership, and anything in between. And this will look different for all of us. And it's certainly going to look different if you live alone, at home, with a roommate, or if you receive residential support, like maybe a group home. So some of these bills that we're talking about will be the same every month, like rent and gym membership don't change from month to month. But others may vary based on usage amounts, like an electricity bill or groceries. So for amounts that vary, we're going to use an estimate, which again is a guess based on the information that we have. So in our example, we live with a roommate. Our share of the rent is $1,500 a month. We don't have a car, but we spend about $100 a month on bus passes and Uber rides. We split our utilities for heat and electricity. This does change from month to month, but on average, it's about $50 a month. And between us and our roommate, we have a couple of different streaming subscriptions that we share. So we spend $20 a month, plus another $100 for our phone. So that's a total of $120. Then we split our groceries and spend on average about $300 a month each. We don't have any recurring medical expenses that we can budget. So the expenses we have here cover all of our needs. So let's quickly add all of our necessary expenses up and see how much we have left for our savings and any discretionary expenses or spending money on fun things that we like to do. So anybody want to take a crack at telling me how much we've spent so far by adding all of these together? And actually, I'm looking at the time and I might just go ahead and give you that answer. So the total of what we've spent so far is $2,070. So that means we have $130 left. So it is $2,200 minus $2,070, $130. So we definitely want to use some of that for savings. Let's put $50 a month away in savings, and that will leave us with $80 a month to spend on things like eating out, hobbies, and other non-necessary, but things we want to do, expenses. So all of that should add up to our monthly income of $2,200.
Looks like it does.
All right. So Sarah's going to talk to us about savings.
All right. So what's the point of saving money? And first, let's define savings. Savings is money that you don't spend. It's usually put into a savings account at a bank. You can also save money in different ways, like maybe you have a piggy bank. When you put it into a bank, sometimes they'll give you a tiny bit, like 5 cents a year or something on $100. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough money that it's cool to put it in the bank. And it's also probably more safe there, right? So what's the point of saving money? Saving money makes sure that you can pay for your needs. Remember, needs are like food, water, shelter, some way of communication, medication, things like that, right? Because sometimes there's unexpected expenses. Anybody ever broken your phone? Oh, it's so frustrating because you're like, I really need that phone and they're so expensive. What am I going to do? Right. So if you've got some money in savings, it might not be quite as scary. Right. Savings also helps us save up for those long-term budget goals. And we're going to talk about short-term and long-term goals in just a second. So having some savings can help us with those. Yeah, Adam said he'd be upset if he broke his phone. Absolutely. So what skills does this take to save up? I think it takes commitment. You've got to like stick to it, right? Because if you're just like, yeah, I'm going to save money, I'll do it next month. We probably won't do it. So you've really got to commit to it, right? Most likely you won't be able to put a large chunk aside all at once. So it probably means that you're going to have to put a little bit away every week, right? Great. The next part is discipline. So that means like being able to say no. Sometimes people hear discipline and think like punishment. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to say no, even if it's something that you kind of want, right? So it's not easy to say no to something that we want, especially if we have the money for it. But if you're really committed to saving, then you'll need to have to practice being able to say no to yourself, right? So you'll budget how much you want to have for fun activities and to put towards savings. And then you need the discipline to stick to it, right? Discipline and commitment. Next up, so that's our sticking to it, saying no, right? Commitment. And then our next one up is delayed gratification, being able to wait. So gratification means being happy, and delayed gratification is meaning that if I put this money away, I'm going to be so happy later rather than like a little happy now. So here's an example. You know, buying something that we want makes us happy, but if you're working towards a bigger goal, like a big purchase or moving out on your own or taking a trip, the gratification that you get from achieving that goal will likely be more than the gratification that you get from just buying a takeout pizza. Right? In the moment, you really want that pizza, so it's hard, but you have to keep reminding yourself that what you're giving up is for a greater purpose. So let's talk about those savings goals. This is us being patient, delayed gratification, waiting, knowing that if we check our watch every 5 seconds, that money is not going to grow. So we really got to make that commitment. So short term and long term. So a short term goal means something that you want in the near future. Maybe your short-term goal is, I'm not going to buy any junk food this week so that I can get takeout this weekend, right? So something you want in the near future. It could be this week or this month or even really this year, right? Maybe there's a new video game that's going to be released next month and you want to buy it as soon as it's released. So you can think of you as that little cat playing a video game, thinking soon, right? A long-term goal means something that you want further, like not this week and not this month, and maybe not even this year. Maybe it's something that you've saved up for years and years and years. Let's see, like some of the things that we want, like big purchases or experiences, will take a lot of time to save up for. Like, Anne, what's an example of a long-term budget goal?
We need to upgrade my husband's car.
Yeah, that's what Aaron said too, a car. That's not something that I can bust out my wallet and be like, here's $5 for a car. They'll say, no, thank you. Come back when you have a lot more of those $5 bills. Aaron also said schooling. You're right. Like if you're saving enough to go to college or you're saving enough to take Strive Worldwide classes, great example. you might have to save up for more than a week or two. Ashley says a trip or a vacation, absolutely. And it's lucky because I'm not traveling right now. I can put a little bit away, a little bit away. And then when it's safe to travel, I can go on a killer vacation. Right?
Now is a great time to be saving up for some of those long-term goals because we're not going out as much. I mean, I haven't gone out to eat in 2 years. I can't even begin to like calculate how much money I'm saving in that way, but I do notice that I have more money to put away towards savings every month.
I haven't been to a movie in a movie theater in a very long time. So I'll save up that money and then do something else with it. Right? Amanda says a house. A house is a giant expense that I don't know that I'm ever going to save enough money for. Great idea. You can even save money by doing pickup instead of for DoorDash. Absolutely. So you can order the food online and then go pick it up and save. You're getting the same food, you're using the same app, but those delivery fees are big money. Absolutely. Good tip.
Adam's looking forward to vacation too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just finished all of the holidays. Maybe your long-term goal is you start right now putting a little bit away, a little bit away, a little bit away, so that when it's holiday time next year, you will be able to buy all of those gifts that you want and not sweat it, right? So here's my hint when we're talking about long-term and short-term. Sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. So I swap out the word term, swap in the word time. So short time goals and long time goals. Short term means soon, long term, way later. Cool. Any questions? Are we doing okay? All right, if you get questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat box and we'll get to them. And I'm going to propose a question to you. What if I don't control my own finances? I bet we've got at least a couple of people here in the audience who may have a representative payee or a financial guardian. Maybe they call you a rep payee, right? So if you don't control your own money, this can be kind of hard, right? A lot of people have support with their finances. And sometimes it's really nice because it can take a lot of the stress of your money off of you. If you'd like to be more independent with your money, I think the first place to start is to start asking questions. Taking an interest in your finances shows that you really want to learn. You could ask, how much money do I receive in income? How much do my expenses cost? If somebody else pays your rent every month, you might not really know how much it costs. And it might be, if you live in a group home, you might not know what your grocery bill is because it's all rolled in with room and board. Right? So these are questions that you could ask. What are my expenses? And then, expressing that interest can go a long ways, right? You could also ask, like, when does your money arrive? Does it come weekly? Does it come monthly? How does that work? Right? These are important steps to know for budgeting too. And communicating with your financial supporter is an important first step. Some people who receive financial support may get a certain amount of spending money each week. Like maybe you get $10 a week. Maybe you get $80 a month. That was that discretionary number that we looked at in the budget, right? If you'd like more independence, this might be a good start. If you don't receive an allowance, you could ask, be like, could I have, $10 a week or a month to play with so that I can make a choice. Do I want to spend it? Do I want to save it? What do I want to spend it on? Right? And then track that spending carefully. We showed you some of the tools that we really like. And if you're shopping, know how much money you start with, save the receipt, and then count your change after. Knowing where and when you spent your money and how much you spent and what you bought can help you demonstrate financial responsibility. It can also help you notice potential problems, Like, did I not get the correct change back at the bowling alley? Am I spending too much money on coffee? Then maybe you can make some changes. And if you're doing really well at keeping track of smaller amounts of spending money, maybe that you could ask for more responsibility. Maybe you could ask, say, when you write my rent check, can I do it with you? Can we do it together? Can I fill out the check and you sign it, kind of a thing? Or can I be in charge of paying my phone bill? Like, you give me the money and then we go together to pay it. Or, you show me how to do it and I'll do it with you. So start by paying one bill and demonstrate independence there, and then you can move forward. So finances are really personal and very different from person to person. So it's really important to communicate with your money support team. And that's a great first step. If you don't tell people that you want to be more involved, they won't know, right? So be clear and honest with your people. Let them know what you'd like to do and what parts might feel like too much. You can always go slow and do a little bit at a time, and have a plan on who you'll ask if you need help, right? I think it's cool to think about that. Like, rather than wait until I'm in trouble and then be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. If I think before, like, okay, before I ask for this money, what am I going to do if I lose it? Who do I ask? What do I do? Where do I look? And if you have a plan on who's going to help you if you need it, that can take a little bit of stress out too. So I think that's a cool idea. What do you guys
Should we
think?
practice?
I think maybe we're going to do a field trip.
So I think a field trip. So we have had, the collective we, our short-term goal was upgrading our winter boots. They've not been doing the job, and it is cold out there. At least if you're in Maine, well, you guys are in New Jersey, it's cold there too. So we've budgeted $75 for our winter boots. Now we got to figure out, how do we find the best deal for our short-term goal and the money that we have? We're going to take a field trip.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing our slides. That's not what I wanted. That's not the button that I pushed. And I'm going to open up a browser in Google. And what did we say? We wanted new winter boots. Look at that. Might have already searched for winter boots today.
Yes.
I think this is a really cool service that Google offers. It's called Google Shopping. I'm going to click on that. And here are all of my options for winter boots. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little better. All right, Anne, what kind of boots do you like? First, we're right here. How much money did you say we have? I think $75. So I'm going to put our max amount of
$75.
Right. So our max amount that we're going to spend is $75. So these boots are $159. Man, they look nice. Go LL Bean. But we can't afford them because we have $75. So I'm going to apply this. And all of those options that were more are now disappeared. Cool. All right.
Okay. So let's think about what's most important to me. I want them to be warm. I want them to be waterproof because we get a lot of snow and sleet. And other than that, those are my two priorities. I don't want to be
already searching for winter boots. So these are more for cold and less for fashion. So we already got that checked off. How about size?
Excellent.
Let's do a good old 10.
I've got big old feet, so size 11.
All right, we'll make it bigger then.
Oh,
let's do size 11. All right. So now we can only see boots that have the option of being size 11 and are less than $75. Do you have a color choice that you really like? What color do you like?
I like blue or gray. Blue and
Let's do blue boots.
gray. Am I
Woo!
frozen?
Nope, I can see you. You're good.
Okay.
All right, so we picked size 11 for Anne. If we bought these boots, do you think they'd fit? They're on sale for free 3-day shipping. It's really important to read all the information because if Anne bought these boots, even though they're well rated, they'd get to her house and she'd have to give them to her kid because they will not fit her. These are children's boots. So all of these are children's boots. Let's scroll down and find our option to do women's boots. Now these are adult sizes.
They're fancy.
Okay, here's something to look at that we talk about a lot in our classes. We talk about not
those are
only
cute, but
yeah, they're cool. They're really cute, but are they well rated? Looks like 23 people said, nah, not great. These have 5 stars, but only 5 people have looked at them. So that means this doesn't mean a whole lot. Let's do some magic over here and we can sort by review score. This means who said these boots are awesome. And look, these are the same ones, but still not many people have checked them out. Looks like there aren't a lot of really great blue boots. Do you think these would keep you warm in the snow?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to look like a blue Wookiee over there, but I don't think they would keep me dry.
I think maybe if we go black to black,
Yeah,
we might.
and Aaron says you can't get them wet.
Yeah, those don't look fun. These don't look like great options either. This looks like a boot that you could get wet and it'd be cozy. It's got a 4.7, which is almost 5. And so many people have checked it and it's on sale. Holy smokes.
And with the delivery, it's still within my budget. Those are the boots I want.
I would say either those or these look pretty great too. These ones are a little bit more, but it does say free delivery. This would be my second choice.
So that's actually less. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
So those are our 2 best options, I think. And these look a little bit more waterproof. If I was going to purchase boots, I know that I'm going to wear them for shoveling snow. I think my feet would stay drier in these.
Yep.
And still a lot of people have checked them out and they also said they're pretty good. Cool. Great job. I'm going to go back over here and I think we're ready to wrap up. So we always wrap up our classes with something that we call Rosebudthorne. So we'd like you to share with us something that you learned today, something that you're looking forward to. And if you have any thorns, if there's anything you were unsure about or something that we talked about that was unclear, let us know so we can try to clear it up.
I'm going to start. So something I learned today is that there's not a lot of great blue boots available for me, but we found some great black ones and I'm very pleased with our choice. Something I'm looking forward to is hearing the feedback you all have for us today. And I don't think I have a thorn for this activity. Aaron says, Rose, I always forget to change the settings when searching online. Yeah. Bud, hoping you'll come back. Thanks, Aaron. We would love to come back. Yeah, I always forget to change the settings too. And because it always defaults, if you notice, you get the ads up top often, right? And so if you want to sort it for what's most important to you, then that's a really great feature.
Yeah, the other options there, you can also sort by price low to high. So if you want to get the best deal, you can see which one is the lowest price. That doesn't mean they're going to be the highest quality boots, but if you're like, I just need a pair of boots to get me through the day and I don't want to spend a ton of money, that might be your choice. And Erin says her Thorne is really trying hard to think of the future and not the present wants. Yeah, that's a delayed gratification piece, and it's hard.
It is.
Thanks for coming, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. One of the things that I find that we teach in our Healthy You class that really helps with that delayed gratification is meditation, which I feel like meditation is often touted as sort of the solution to every problem, but it really does help you to notice when you're having that, like, I must have it now thought, and be able to stop and say, okay, I'm having this thought, but do I really need it? No. And you can let it go.
Erin likes that too. And do you want to talk about our big free upcoming seminar where they could learn some meditation with us?
Oh, I would love to. Thank you. We are offering a free Healthy You seminar that is on January 11th. It is not through the ARC of New Jersey. It's hosted by Strive Worldwide, but it is, we'll be talking about, what we'll be talking about, Sarah, meditation.
Oh yeah, we're
We
gonna
will
kick
be
off with some
talking
meditation. We'll
about
talk
the
about
Not Yeti and your mindset.
growth mindset. We're going to talk about goal setting and tiny habits so that we're not making resolutions that, has anybody already broken their resolutions? So we're going to, instead of setting big resolutions, we'll talk about how to come up with an idea and then make it as tiny as possible so that we can make progress and not feel like we've already blown our resolution.
And I am just pulling up the link and I'll plop that in the chat in just a moment.
And that's free. We're offering 3 different time slots. We're doing a daytime, an afternoon, and an evening. So if anybody wants to come to that, that's open to participants. We have over 200 participants coming from over 7 countries. So big doings for us coming up next week.